I guess it's tough because we just came off the heels of finishing Book of Boba Fett last night, and that as a franchise kind of left me wanting, I suppose.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't started it. I've heard that it's not as good. Obviously, I mean, we talked about it, and then like I've seen some memes that like it's
What is
just
that?
the Book of Boba Fett.
The finale.
Oh, nope. Don't get me started.
So I just stumbled across a show that I absolutely like fell in love with. So I watched the James Gunn, the new Suicide Squad, and it was okay. It wasn't terrible. It's way better than any of the other DC ones. But then they have like the John Cena has his own show for Peacemaker.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll give it a try because I like John Cena.
I do
and
too.
I watched like one episode.
How was it?
And I watched it, and the intro song, like as soon as the intro song came on, it had me, and I was hooked. It was it's absolutely hilarious.
Mac was talking about it and said he really liked it too.
I think John Cena.
It's written by James Gunn, so it's
Okay.
Guardians of the Galaxy, and like he doesn't direct every episode, but I think he directed the pilot and a couple other ones.
Cool.
Yeah, I think John Cena he just does stuff that's like kind of unexpected a lot of times and does it really well. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean he's an actor because wrestlers are actors.
Yeah.
But he doesn't take himself too seriously, which is
That's
like,
what it
like
is.
he's absolutely okay to make fun of himself and to play that kind of character. Like in this one, it is. I don't know. He's spot on. Like the character is absolutely ridiculous, and he plays him ridiculous, and it works.
Yeah, I think you nailed it with that. He just is not afraid to take himself not that seriously.
He's done more Make-A-Wish like appearances than any other person ever by like orders of magnitude, I believe.
Yeah, from what I understand, he's absolutely a fantastic person. And like everything that he's in, like he's a funny actor. Like
Yeah.
he's good at what he does. Like he's a good actor. He's a good person. He's great at comedy timing, and like his deadpan face works absolutely perfectly.
Yeah, the chiseled jaw.
Yeah, I mean, but the things that he says, and he can keep that, like he's a wrestler, so he can say the most ridiculous things and keep like a completely serious face.
Yeah.
And it works so good in the show because like it's not like a world where like everybody else is that ridiculous. Like everybody thinks he's ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
Well, yeah, apparently he is a really good guy. Eric, do you remember that guy Anders that we filmed some stuff with? Like he's friends with John Cena. Like he works out at his gym because I believe Cena lives in Southern California. But yeah, it's just like, okay, well, you're friends with John Cena. Like you need to tell me about that. But he said he's just a genuinely like good guy and just like a goofball.
All right, so just to get intro to it, if you go to YouTube and you look up Peacemaker opening credits, you will absolutely like.
Yeah, I've read about it and I've seen a still, but I've not seen it. I want to try to watch it, but
It doesn't have any. It doesn't tell you anything about it. It is like it's all based on like the show is like revolves around hair metal. Like all of the music is like hair metal covers of other songs.
Yes.
It's like it's perfect because he is like the epitome of like the hair metal 80s rock. Like everything about it is great. So if you have like a minute and 30 seconds, watch it.
All right, I'm gonna watch it, but I'll be right back. I gotta kick my cats out.
I thought you were just going to stop and kick my cat. Yeah, the problem is I don't ever watch television without Katie. And she is like Marveled and Star Wars out.
There's a lot of content there.
So I think it would be a little tough to sell.
This has nothing to do with like they don't. No other heroes are involved. They mention other characters because like the ongoing joke is how terrible DC characters are. And so like he'll cancel like, oh man, this is way better than my last mission. I was with the Matter Eater lad. That guy just eats things. Like they make fun of all of the bad DC characters.
That's awesome.
We
Like,
saw
it's absolutely tongue in cheek.
we saw the new Spider-Man last night. Finally,
Oh, I haven't seen it yet.
it's fucking worth it.
Yeah, I didn't know there was an epic spoiler, and then Virginia just casually was watching a video about that spoiler, and then I got spoiled.
Yeah.
So if you want to let Katie know, that was like there was some karma delivered.
there's probably stuff left unspoiled because there was one thing that I was like, "What? I didn't know this." And I mean, it's my fault. I didn't see it, when it came out, but it was probably one of the best movies I've seen in a long time.
I've been hearing that consistently.
So to do a callback to Boba Fett, you didn't like the ending?
Well, yeah, with Boba Fett and Friends, I just didn't really like the series. There's parts of the series I thought were cool and things that I liked, but overall, it just, like we talked about last time, it just felt like Disney got its tendrils in it, and ruined it. But I could be wrong. Like maybe Filoni and fucking Favreau are just like, this is awesome.
So I did a lot of thinking about it because Katie and I watched it and we're like, that was like technically okay, but I didn't like it. Like we talked about, I think they had their tone. Like it's just a different tone from what I think were marketed. Like, I don't know, but there was no theme of the show. Like there was no central theme.
Mm-hmm.
So like normally with the central theme, the main character's flaw is tied to that theme and they have to overcome that flaw in order to like win the day. And that just didn't happen. There was just Boba Fett is the exact same character at the beginning as he was at the end.
And they front loaded his growth at the very beginning, and that was the problem.
But it was also backflash growth, which doesn't feel like cathartic when it happens. Like when we see it. So like he didn't have to earn anything. The only choices he made ended up being wrong. The wrong choices.
Which he was counseled of the whole time.
Exactly. He had like the only agency he had made him look stupid because he ended up being wrong. And then like Fennec and Mando ended up doing the like work. It was just so weird. Like
it really was.
There was just so much there was definitely a much easier story to tell that would have been more like compelling and fulfilling at the end.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like strange. I think because the Pike Syndicate wasn't compelling as an enemy.
Well, we switched villains 3 times.
Yeah. I think if there would have been some kind of really cool epic conflict just between Boba and Cad Bane.
Exactly. If they had brought in Bane instead of the Hutts and instead of the Pikes, like episode 2, and they could have had their rivalry through the whole thing, that would have been great.
Yeah, they would.
And really, it was so strange. Billy, are you going to watch it? Oh, fuck, Mark's here now.
Yeah, I am.
I'm just going to go spoiler nuke.
Wait, I just got here. What are we spoiling?
Boba Fett.
Oh, I done seen it.
Okay, so
I done seen it.
And just by the way he says it, it's not like Boba Fett. Boba Fett.
Yeah. So Chris and I both didn't really care for it. I just got done lecturing about why I thought it was poor, and I want to get your take. I don't think that the Book of Boba Fett had a theme. Like, again, normally the central theme also revolves around the main character's like flaw, and they have to overcome that flaw to beat the bad guy or do whatever, and that just didn't happen.
Yeah. I'm a mixed bag. I enjoyed it overall, but I think it was highly flawed as far as just like good Star Wars and good TV in general goes. But I still liked it. Like I still enjoyed that they put it out. But yeah, I think it's nowhere near what I expected, and that you might have hit on like a core kind of disconcerting thing that I hadn't realized yet. But yeah, it barely focused on Boba, to be honest, in a lot of instances.
So that's what Chris and I were just talking about. The Boba Fett doesn't really make a lot of choices in the present narrative, and the choices he does make end up all being wrong.
Yes.
They
And-
also make the world's most feared and capable bounty hunter seem just completely incompetent.
That's what I'm wondering. Based on how just kind of CW it is, I don't think that this is the case, but I could see perhaps in a season 2 we start to realize that he does have a character flaw, and it is that he is, I don't know what the word is, like bad at decision making, or like
Bad at being
ill-fitting
good
for this job.
So that was
Like, is he going to have a midlife crisis where he's like, you know what, being a daimo's rough. Maybe I should go back to freelancing.
well.
It doesn't sound very exciting, and I don't think they're planning that anyway. But
In the end, he said something that led me to believe
Yeah.
that that's what, like, oh, maybe this isn't for me. Like, then what the fuck was this all about?
Yeah.
Like, again, that just, it's like the Jamie Lannister, like, oh, I never cared about the small people. They're like, then why did you kill the Mad King? Like, none of the, you can't just fucking step back on your whole character arc and be like, I don't really want to do this anymore. Because like Finnick the whole time was awesome.
Yeah,
Like-
she stayed consistent.
He stayed consistent. Mando came in and had like a really, like, Mando's character felt really good. I had a lot of problems with what I think they did with him, because I feel like they stepped on his entire arc also. We're like, no, you can have him back because we got to sell toys.
Yeah.
Like, I know you sacrificed and it's like part of your character struggle, but we built a little spot for him. So we got to sell it. Go figure.
I thought it was super weird, especially because like Boba didn't even have a cameo in his own show. But like, I appreciated
mentioned
the
it.
extra side quest that I got to see of Mandalorian.
Yeah.
It was the best episode in the whole series.
It
And
was.
I think the thing is, like, Shand and Mandalorian and these other people come across as different from Boba, and I feel like that's because of just the way they've positioned the show.
Yeah.
Like, they existed previously in a badass world that was a Western, so they can't give that up. Like, those actors, you know what I mean? Like, they're carrying that through, kind of regardless of the direction of the show. And I was telling Maddie, I think Boba Fett to me feels like a purposeful and pointed step from Disney animated series and live action movie
I could see
feature
that.
length. They're like, we are going to carve out a space that is like goofy, campy Star Wars cartoon, but we're going to put people in it this time.
That's the thing. The tone was so weird because it would shift back and forth. And again, I think the tone was weird because I don't think they had a theme and like a this is the truth we want to tell. Like with Mando, there were like strong themes, like we are better together, like, which is one of the things I really love about Mando is like he's not the solo, like I can do it on my own. He's like, oh, I'm gonna need some help, and you don't almost ever see that in like a leading, like mysterious protagonist.
Yeah.
And he's like the single dad, like I need to do what's best for my kid, even if that's not what's best for me.
Yeah, his reluctant hero's journey is fatherhood, which is weird and cool.
Yeah, and like it's not normal, and I think they did it well. And then for this season of Boba Fett to just be like, nope, you can have him back, which also characterization of Luke was so strange.
Yeah, really.
It felt like no one in this series, other than Mando, was the same characters that we've seen before. Like Luke. So first of all, I don't know if you guys know this. The Luke was obviously like a stunt man walking around with a digital face, which was eerie.
His voice was AI too.
His voice was AI.
What?
Yes. So I watched a little video of it on Reddit. Somebody compiled every word Mark Hamill ever said in that era. And like he did some like books on tape and like all sorts of stuff. And they like computer generated a voice for him.
Well, I mean, that explains it. You get a flat performance because it's a fucking robot.
Right? Like this isn't Luke. That's not how Luke talks.
Because Mark Hamill is a prolific voice actor. If he needed to dub over, somebody,
but his voice is different now.
Yeah, it's computer, so it's
no, like Mark Hamill, the live human man's voice is different than it was when he was 30.
Yeah, well, I'm sure
So
yeah.
I mean, you also cast, a fucking Twi'lek, so Just find someone with blonde hair, like movies do.
Get goddamn Sebastian Stan on
That's
the
great.
line.
I didn't know that, but that reminds me so much of when the behind the scenes photos of the new prequels came out, and everybody was like, green screen. Like, maybe we've just used the technology and we really didn't need to.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 100% what I thought. I was like, this is like perfect Star Wars. You have this technology, so you want to use it, but you didn't need to. You could have fucking flew to Tunisia. Like,
It's a path some consider to lead to the dark side.
100%.
Well played.
Well played. The thing that also drives me crazy with Ahsoka also, it's not the character Ahsoka was. They don't talk like that. It's so strange to me when writers are like, how do I portray someone as wise? They won't use contractions. It sounded so like, I am reading this off of a teleprompter. You cannot do this. He will not adhere to that. Like, well, fucking act. Rosario Dawson's a good actor. Make her act.
Yeah, especially because they did so much.
Better.
Mm-hmm.
They did so much work to develop Ashoka over the series.
Mm-hmm.
I actually read an article about it recently that was super cool because
About him removing her character flaws.
well, I mean, in part, yeah. But
Yeah,
basically explaining why everybody hated her when she showed up in the show.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, she was an annoying, like, preteen girl who was supposed to better herself over time and stuff. And, like, that's why she changes. And I was like, oh.
It's brilliant.
Like, it's great.
Filoni knew, like, people don't want to see a new character. They want to see Luke and Obi-Wan, but I need a new vehicle to tell a different story. So he invented Ahsoka and knew people are going to hate her. So he instilled character flaws in her so he can control what they hated.
Yeah.
And then systematically through like plot and character development took them out. So she's like young and brash and she gets like half of her platoon killed. So she becomes more like controlled and like big things happen that change her. And it was planned from the beginning, which is what you're supposed to do. But
and he also bamboozled everybody, like all of the hardcore fans, because he chose like a young girl.
Yeah.
So it's like he took those things, exaggerated them, played the cliche, and then threw it in everybody's face by the end of it.
Like really the like end of Clone Wars, like the last like half of the newest season is like some of my favorite Star Wars content ever. And Ahsoka becomes like one of the best characters because she's so well like fleshed out.
I still haven't caught up to all of it yet.
Man, you gotta watch the new season. It's so good. It sucks for like creators like that because like you can only character develop Anakin and Obi-Wan so much because they have a point that you start at and they have a point that you end at. And you only get the middle part that you can mess with, and you can't mess with it too much.
Well,
So-
and if they don't do anything epic, which is the middle of any hero's story,
Yeah.
then like everybody's going to be like, why did you even put Luke in here? It's like, well, he has to do something cool, so he's going to come get Grogu, but he can't do a lot because we already know what he does.
And it's not his story. And we don't have an actor. We have a fucking 3 robots shoved in together.
Yes,
And-
which is why they sent an empty X-wing in the final. Never mind. Sorry,
Which also,
can't spoil.
so I want to talk about that. Sorry, Billy.
It's fine. I'll watch it. I don't really care that much about spoilers.
The scene where
Did that episode? How many episodes are there?
7.
7.
The last one I saw was like the big fight. The Pikes like sprung a trap on them.
Yeah, that's it. That's the end.
That's the end. Okay.
Yeah. But so the episode where Luke and Grogu and Mando are all chillaxing. And Luke fucking like manipulates Grogu and it's like, you have to choose between this thing or my thing. And I love you. Like that was also so strange and not Luke. And then Grogu chose Mando and he's like, fine, get the fuck out of here. I'm not even going to ride you home. R2, drive his ass back.
Yeah. Speaking of daddy issues, there's a whole thing to unpack.
He just got rejected from his like primary school teacher. So there was another thing that drove me a little nuts.
Well, it's just interesting, like presented with a father choice that Luke himself was like, I just got off the heels of some crazy father choices myself. I'm going to present it to this tiny little being.
Yeah, I really actually hadn't thought of that on like a. Honestly have a hard time projecting emotion on a Grogu, which I know sounds weird.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about it from his perspective because he's not quite humanoid to me yet.
Yeah. It drove me.
But yeah, that's a good point. I thought it was kind of cool at the time because like, what a terrible decision to have to make and stress me the hell out. And then also I felt like showed the sharp edge of Jedi, which they never do.
But so
Like it's a terrible sect in a lot of ways to have to commit to all these things.
Exactly. So I want to pull a string on that. Luke was not trained as a Jedi, and Ahsoka specifically left the Order because of those things. Why are they why are they continuing these shitty traditions?
Culture, man.
Why are they no attachments? Luke is specifically attachments. Attachments is what saved his friends and saved Vader.
Also,
that is not Luke.
Luke at one point, and I guess this is kind of erased, but Luke got married and had kids and a family. Jade Skywalker was his wife.
Yeah. Like
spoilers
for comics from the 90s
that are erased by the machination of Disney's.
Yeah. But that is Luke's like not character flaw, but like heroic trait is that like he sees the good in people and like saw that the Jedi Order, like, oh, obviously this is why it didn't work. We need a new way. So like love and compassion and like attachment is what keeps us part of this system. Mm-hmm. So we're not removed.
His love for Luke and Leia and Chewie and all of his friends, like that's what gave him his strength. Yeah, like the thing that gave him strength, they're saying now, like, that's
and he's forcing this decision on what we assume a being that has like the mental capacity of a toddler.
Yeah, like ostensibly a child.
Yeah.
So like you give a kid like, do you want this candy or do you want this like celery stick? And he was like, well, I want the fucking candy. He was like, then get out of here. I was like, this is going to be really cool because this is going to show him like merging and growing and be like, you can have both and it will make us better.
Yeah, you're right. That would have been. Yeah, yeah, you've convinced me. The show's terrible.
There's also this like. They try to leave you with like, oh, what will he choose? But like clearly he's gonna choose Mando.
Maddie was like, they still need to sell toys, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, you're right.
It also was so strange to me that Luke and him are walking around and he's like, you remind me of somebody, Master Yoda. And I'm gonna be like, so Luke, what part of Master Yoda does he remind you of? The wiseness, like the way he talked? No, his race. You're a fucking racist.
He's small, green, and
then he goes, and then he stops and looks at me. He's like, "Do you know Master Yoda?"
Like, what the fuck? It was so. Why bring up Yoda?
It's like, can I touch your hair?
He asks, "Have you seen any more of your people?"
It's like the one black guy, like, hey, do you know my one black friend? Like, no, there's a lot of us. We don't all know each other. It was so fucking weird. I thought they were going to flip it. You remind me of a friend of mine, and we're all thinking, of course it's Yoda. And he's like, Chewbacca.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever.
Mace Windu or some shit.
Yeah. And we're like, no, it was and why? Just because they're the same race. Super stupid.
I think you're right. They could have, rather than trying to set up the same like dichotomy that I was picking up on, like, they don't need to do that because I guess that was kind of, Luke's whole thing. So it is definitely weird now that you've
like that 1/2 episodes ruined all Mando's work in Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And Luke's like I've several times I feel like just trashed the character of Luke, but this just did it again. It's like insult to injury. Again, Luke is the person that saw the good in Vader. Like, why would he try to murder his nephew in the middle of the night because he had a bad dream?
Yeah.
It doesn't make fucking sense.
I don't know. Anytime Disney just goes in and starts rewriting stuff, it's been rough. The problem is you have these characters that have been created so long ago, and they had part of the magic around them was what was left to mystery.
Yep.
And now that they're going in and defining all of this stuff, it's like, well, now you're kind of going against all the cool shit that I had in my head, and you're defining it in these like very what seems sloppy or not in character way or not authentic ways to the character.
that's what I was so excited about Mandalorian for, is because they carved out something completely different. I'm like, okay, like maybe we'll see a Rancor in the distance, or perhaps he'll fight somebody that's like a background character somewhere, but it was separate.
Yeah.
But I mean, what's her name, Kathleen Kennedy, literally said, like, we're gonna Marvel universe the fuck out of this. Like, every single new show is a crossover, and all of that, and like it's gonna be like dopamine hits of like, oh yeah, this guy, instead of, I'm worried anyways, instead of like the story being the important part, it's going to be like, what epic moment can we have Mando show up, rather than like, why would we bring in him at this moment?
Yeah.
And Disney's been so on, like, it just seems like they're really intentionally being on the nose about the callbacks. Like, to make really sure they drive home, hey, this is a callback, remember that from A New Hope? And I don't necessarily want that. And you nailed it, Mark. Like, Mando was great because it was new and fresh, but familiar.
Yes. And so one of the things I think is hard with them doing Boba Fett is Mando is Boba Fett. Like, that was what his character was.
Yeah.
Like soft-spoken, pragmatic, like business killer. And then they like, oh, but we actually brought back Boba Fett. But fuck, what could we like?
Make him
if they made
soft.
a real Boba Fett show, it would be the exact Mandalorian show without the weird religion and the kid.
And that would have been a cool show.
Yeah, I think that in general, they're going to have a hard time getting everything right, just because if they do anything too new, people are going to complain because they want the old characters.
Right.
But if they do the old characters from too familiar stories, then they're just repeating the same stuff. But if they make those old characters do something new, people are going to be, and it's a little bit too different, people are going to be upset because they don't like the direction the new character is going at. So, I mean, I think it is a fine line, like Mando, where you have to have everything in like perfect harmony, just because Star Wars fans are so militant that like you are at least like understanding it from a story wise, but a lot of them will just watch it from like my gut. Like, my gut tells me I don't like it.
The thing is, like, I just have the vocabulary to describe it. Like, I feel like so many people feel the same thing. Like, that's not my Luke. And you're like, oh, okay, well, here is why. Like, here are the story elements as to why that is not the same character. So, like, Mando, I agree. Like, that was, like, the fine line. But it was also because it was very well done. Like, they took their fucking time and, like, really made a good story. And I just don't feel like they've done that.
I feel like we're all having the realization that like we've been hooked. Mando was the lure. And now like literally they did it long enough to make sure it was going to be a fucking hit, and then announced like 8 new shows in the next 3 years.
You just identified Disney's like nefarious drug, like meth addiction.
Well, and the thing is, like, it's this is historic. It's what they do.
Yeah.
And like it's probably a classic case. I think Billy hit it on the nose of too many cooks in the kitchen, because they're not committing to either one of those methods that you just mentioned, Bill. They're like putting them both in the blender and seeing what comes out.
Yeah, so they were trying to appease both halves and end up angering both anyway.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's all you can do when you're a multinational mega corporation trying to make everyone's favorite TV show.
Yeah, you know what show you should watch that isn't going to get you angry? Peacemaker. The show's great.
On that note,
The Legend of Vox Machina.
That's one I do want to check out too.
It's on my list.
I'm very interested to see, kind of in the same vein of Star Wars, how much of it is entertaining and good to me because of the mystery and the unknown and things like having seen episodes of the podcast, versus you guys might watch it and be like, this is cool anime or whatever.
Yeah, I want to check it out and have a discussion around it. I like these talks where we can jump in on like a story or a show or something and kind of break it down, because like those frameworks, they're fun because you can kind of see what's happening, but then I think it's also neat as sometimes those things like manifest themselves in our games too.
Yeah. And we can play a game where you guys guess what happened at the table and what didn't.
That actually would be kind of a fun exercise.
Yeah, because I think you might be able to pick out some moments that are like more or less quoted from their table sessions.
Yeah, that's
Interesting.
cool.
Yeah, there's something I read a lot when people talk about like when the Dungeons and Dragons movie happens, because like they're mining every bit of intellectual property for film.
You mean you don't mean the Marlon Wayans movie?
Well, there is one with Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez coming out soon.
Yeah, like another year or something.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know this.
Did I just
I
flatten
don't know
your-
anything about it, but I've seen some like very.
So I see
weak
when I type in
teasers.
Dungeons and Dragons movie, I get one from 2000, one from 2005, and one from 2012. Never heard of any of. I don't know. They just show up. I don't see anything about Chris Pine. Oh,
yeah.
2023.
I heard there was one in development.
Yes, there's one in development. Yeah, all the other ones are bad.
This one probably will be too.
This one probably will be too. I'm gonna go see it anyways.
It's not going to be good. I mean, what's it? Vin Diesel made his D&D character have a whole movie, The Last Smith Hunter. That was D&D. That was Vin Diesel's D&D character.
Yeah.
I want to know if this
What?
movie is like people playing D&D and you get to go into their game and like,
So
which could
that's
be
what. Yeah, that's what I keep reading. That's actually what I started that sentence to talk about. Like everybody says, like I want them to go back to the table, and Batman was like, when we fucking watched The Hobbit, we didn't start with people reading the book. Make a real story. Like I don't need gimmicks.
It doesn't need to be meta.
Yeah, it's so weird to me.
But then it's
Like,
like,
we
why
have-
call it Dungeons and Dragons? Why can't it just be like adventure movie titled The Adventure?
Well, and that is
Dungeons and Dragons
exactly the point.
With a
Yeah.
fan base already.
Because I feel like my concern there is literally it's just an intellectual property play. Like
Exactly.
no one's actually
Yeah.
invested in any reason to make this story. Because if you were, you would have written something with your own fantasy, you know?
Yes. Well, so I 100% agree. But what happens a lot of times, or at least did with every Die Hard movie past like the first Die Hard until like the sixth, was written as a different movie. Like Die Hard with a Vengeance was called Simon Says, and it was like a cop and a dude
Mhm.
fighting this thing, and they're like,
That's
"Oh,
interesting.
this is a fucking excellent movie. Let's change his name to John McClane." like you can switch some of the like proper nouns and change the intellectual property, but it
Yeah,
was written
fair enough.
as like a story first.
yeah.
Hopefully they
There's
found a good story that they could use.
No,
rather
there's
than-
one correct way to make a Dungeons and Dragons movie, and what happens is you have a person who's playing Dungeons and Dragons who somehow gets transported into the game, and he has meta knowledge that he can metagame and no one else can. It's basically like a kid in King Arthur's court.
Oh,
but with a
yeah.
guy.
Oh,
That
With
would
the
be
CD
a
player?
really good movie that you could actually link it to Dungeons and Dragons. where
There
he's
it
like,
is.
That's
Hollywood.
it. That's the movie. I made it. You should
There you
sell it
go.
to someone else. Sell that idea.
I'm
That
just
would be
gonna
fun.
reskin
That would also
Jumanji
be-
and we're done.
Like the tone of that would be different. Like I want, like the tone of the Dungeons and Dragons movie I want is Lord of the Rings. Take that shit serious. Give me a story in this world, and I'm happy. I would watch that movie that you mentioned though, because
Yes.
that would be a different. That's
That's
the Black Knight with Martin Lawrence.
yeah, or Kid in King Arthur's Court.
Kid in King
or
Arthur's
you-
Court
all
is-
those '90s shows. They did it like 20 times in the '90s.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that they already
what was the one
made.
with Arnold, Last Action Hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Last Action Hero, but just make it instead of like for kids, make it like a fucking an adult who gets sucked into it, and make it like adult ass themes where the guy could possibly die, not just like a 12-year-old kid. Make it like a 32-year-old who's kind of out of shape, and all of a sudden like he'll be kind of like a what's his name from Game of Thrones, the fat guy.
Oh, the
Yeah,
fool.
Sam.
Oh, Sam. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be kind of
Sam
be like
Tarly.
the Sam character, but what he has is he has like game meta knowledge, and that's it. That's the only thing he has. Like I think
Yeah.
you can make it serious.
But
Could we
like, yeah,
cast,
like
Jonah Hill, or is that too?
Jonah Hill's lost a lot of weight.
Yeah. I would.
Well, I know, but he's got kind of like an
cocaine's a hell of a
action
drug.
thing going.
I think the guy who played Sam Tarly would be perfect for that.
He's in
Absolutely.
a movie called Moonfall that looks terrible. He's probably going to be looking for work soon.
I saw that movie and I thought that it was a joke, but it's not a comedy. Like it seems funny. the concept of it, but
Yeah.
they're taking it dead serious. So I
Really?
will
'Cause
see how
that's
that
what I
turns
thought.
out.
It seemed kind of like the like scary movie type stuff. Like we're taking the piss out of this genre.
Yeah. Maybe.
But if they were just trying to do it seriously, that's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a joke, but based on it, I mean, I think they have some comic relief, but I think they're taking it stone cold serious.
Huh. You watched it?
No, but like when I first saw this, like the trailers, I'm like, oh, this is like kind of like a disaster movie. Like, look at how terrible the trope is, because it kind of came out at the same time as Don't Look Up.
Yeah.
Which
was also billed as a comedy, by the way.
Wasn't?
I mean, all of the trailers were like dark comedy-esque, but I watched that whole thing and I was like,
it's a satire.
Yeah, satire, I would say.
I mean, it's 100% a satire of global warming.
Yeah.
That's what it was written for. Is don't look at the science, don't look up. This is happening to us, and everybody's just ignoring it. It is written as a satire for global warming.
Oh my god! We saw Mark Maron Friday night do stand up, and it was so funny. And he had a bit basically about global warming and totalitarianism, and he's like, humans are so adaptable. Like, we don't mind. Most of you will be totally fine with totalitarianism. Like, can I watch my same Netflix show? Yeah, cool. I don't care. It's like, it's 130 outside. That's fine. That's not that hot. It just kept going on. It was so funny. I really hope he records this so you guys can see it.
Nice.
But it's like 100% true. Like, most people are just like, I don't care.
No, that's like, just, as long as I get like my things that I like, then it doesn't affect me that much, then it's fine. Speaking of recording stuff, though, do you guys want to jump in on a couple episodes that we got slated for today?
I'm down.
Cool.
You've tried to segue us
a couple times, yeah. But what was that? That's it for our critical analysis of Book of Boba Fett. And what else did we do? Explored a bunch of other recommendations for shows.
I was 100% the Ben Kissel in that conversation because I don't know what the fuck is happening.
Well, I actually did record that, so that'll be one episode. So maybe we get a 3 for today.
Zeitgeist, Bill, so you can jump in and give me your
hot takes,
your critical thoughts.
That wraps up our impromptu review of the Book of Boba Fett. It was fun to dive into some of those storytelling elements and themes, and also finding ways we can pull them into our upcoming games. We'll be live streaming our discussions and live plays from Twitch from now on, so if you want to tune in, follow us at twitch.tv/+1togaming. Until then, thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.